Welcome to the City of San Antonio Department of Arts and Culture Grant Application Tutorial for the fiscal year 2027 Artist Grants. Our goal is to provide you with all the information you need to successfully complete your application for funding. My name is Carissa Valadez, and I'm the contract officer who will be guiding you through this presentation today. In this tutorial, you'll be provided with information about this grant, eligibility, funding, and restrictions, the categories you may apply in, and scoring, as well as how to apply, the timeline, and where you can find answers should you have any questions. Additional information can be found at the QR code here on our Artist Grant page on our website. Our grants are aimed to support a diverse portfolio of artists working across the city of San Antonio in the production of new, original, high-quality art. These grants have the specific intent of expanding the artist's professional development through the creation of new works, which must be publicly displayed or performed in Bexar County during the contract period. All funding is predicated upon meeting eligibility requirements and the availability of funds. First, let's go over eligibility, funding, and restrictions. Only one application is allowed per artist or per group in the case of a collective. Any duplicate applications received will be moved to the ineligible status. The eligible applicants for this grant are at least 18 years of age, not full-time City of San Antonio employees. Contract or temporary employees can apply, just not any full-time city employees. They are residents of the City of San Antonio or those who operate an artistic business or studio within city limits. You will be required to show proof of address. So if you live in a different municipality, such as Leon Valley, or you live in unincorporated territory in Bexar County, you will not qualify for this grant. You must reside in city limits of San Antonio. Eligible applicants are professional artists. We define professional artists as those who have at least 3 years of relevant work experience or have received specialized training in their artistic field, such as a degree or certification. They demonstrate a clear investment of time and resources into the creation of new works. And those who have a professional resume and portfolio that includes published or publicly displayed works. You will be asked to submit your resume in the intent to apply, as well as the application. Now for funding. We have 2 funding tiers for our artist grants. You must decide which tier to apply for. If you apply to the $15,000 tier, you will not be eligible to receive the $7,500, and vice versa. You must select which tier you want to apply for. The requirements are the same, but you can only apply for one and not both. Individual artists can apply for both tiers, but collectives can only apply for the $15,000 tier. Please note that beginning with the FY26 grant cycle, artists are not eligible for consecutive year funding through the Artist Grant Program. They must take at least 1 year off. So if you were a prior grantee in FY26, you will have to sit out and so on going forward. For artist collectives that receive prior year funding, the primary and secondary artists of that collective must take a year off. Additionally, artists may not apply if they have any current artist grant from the department that remains open. So even if you are an FY25 grantee and you have not completed your project yet, you cannot apply for this grant. You must be closed out before applying. Artist collectives. We define artist collectives as groups of 2 or more artists that co-create work as part of a cohesive body of art practitioners. Artist collectives are only eligible to apply for the $15,000 tier. You will be prompted to specify whether or not you are applying on behalf of a collective and your intent to apply. For collectives, application will be submitted by a designated lead on behalf of the group of artists. We will also require a secondary designee's contact information. The lead collective member will be responsible for ensuring all contractual requirements are fulfilled, as we will only be contracting with them and they will be the one receiving payments. They are responsible for dispersing payments among the entire collective if awarded. Let's discuss artist collectives versus artist collaborators. As I said, we define artist collectives as groups of 2 or more artists that co-create work as part of a cohesive body of art practitioners. Artist collaborators are those who help you put together your project. Artist collectives make work and apply together as a unit. collectives, and individuals can hire additional collaborators. Project collaborators do not have to be artists. Examples of this are gallerists, fabricators, marketing professionals, event photographers, etc. The key difference lies in whether you're making a body of work as a group, which would be a collective, or as an individual who is simply contracting with project collaborators. For FY27, the Department of Arts and Culture plans to award 30 artist grants, 25 at $7,500 and 5 at $15,000. Awards are determined by availability of funding, the number of applications received, and applicant scores. Funding under this program will either be $7,500 or $15,000 per artist during the contract period, which is October 1st, 2026 through March 31st, 2028. Payments will go out by the end of November if and only if all required paperwork has been submitted to us. The pay schedule, 80% at contract execution and 20% at project completion. Any funds needed above the awarded amount is the responsibility of the artist. Artists may not solicit additional funding from the city for their project. Only one contract is allowed per contract period. Artist grants will be administered on an annual basis. There will be an open call every spring. Only one contract is allowed per the contract period, as I stated previously. A new contract will not be awarded while an artist is still working to complete their project from a previous grant cycle or contract. The project period is 18 months long, occurring between October 1st, 2026 through March 31st, 2028. The contract period is 19 months long, with an additional month for our staff internally to close out any artist premiering in late March. You still must premiere by March 31st, 2028. The additional month is purely for staff to work on receiving final reports from those who were processed and premiered in March. Your contract must close by April 30th, 2028. Failure to complete the project may result in an artist being deemed ineligible to apply for future grant funding. The city reserves the right to suspend, defer, or cancel all or part of the funding process at any time. Applicants who receive a grant must comply with the funding program's requirements and all contractual obligations. These are some of the restrictions on use of funds from this grant. For a complete list, please refer to Section 10 of the Request for Applications on our website. So we most commonly see the following restrictions. Department of Arts and Culture funding cannot be used to support workshops. We get a lot of questions regarding workshops. You can have a workshop as part of your overall project, but the workshop itself nor a series of workshops can be considered for your overall project. Your project has to be a new work. Workshops or a series of workshops do not count as new artwork. Department of Arts and Culture funding cannot be used to support residency programs. Funding cannot be used to support starting a residency program or attending a residency program. Funding can also not be used to support educational programs held on a school campus that are provided by the school. If you are a teaching artist, let's say for example, at UTSA, you can use the school as the venue for your premiere. However, your project cannot in any way be used for academic credit, a class, or anything like that. Student work completed for academic credit or as part of an academically supported project, program, or residency. We cannot pay for any student work with city funds, and we cannot pay tuition for any type of art schools with city funds. If you are an artist wanting to take classes from another independent artist, not for academic credit, you can use funding for something like that. And as I said before, for the full list of restrictions, please refer to Section 10 of the RFA. Grants will be awarded in categories. Applicants will be required to select the category that best describes the proposed project. I do want to note that Department of Arts and Culture staff can answer questions on categories, but we cannot advise for which category you should select. It is the responsibility of the artist to select their category. The categories refer to the project and not yourself as an artist. This grant is used for new works, which can include people premiering outside of their typical medium. So don't be afraid to try something new. The category is purely referring to the project which you are applying for. The categories are as follows. Literary arts, the creation of written works such as books, magazines, manuscripts, and online forms of literature. Media arts, film, cinema, audio, broadcast, new media, and related formats. Visual arts, 2D and 3D works of any medium, including photography but not videography. Videography would be media arts. Performing arts, dance, theater, spoken word, live music, and other performances. And multidisciplinary, which is any project that includes more than one discipline of the categories listed here. It is imperative that you choose the correct category in your application, as the panel will be scoring based on category. Let's say you accidentally select visual arts if you're a literary artist. The entire panel will be comprised of visual arts experts. You will most likely not score as high as you would if you selected the correct category. So it is very important to pause and think about which category you fall under, as you will be submitting this in your application and you cannot edit it once you submit your application. I have some examples regarding category projects here. So if I were in a band and I were using the funds to record and film a music video, and my whole project was based around premiering that music video at a screening at a local venue, I could fall under media arts. However, if I'm a band and I want to use funding purely for funding a large-scale performance, let's say at the Tobin Center, that would fall under performing arts. Let's say I'm a fashion designer and I want to create some textile works, but I also want to have a runway show. Something like that could be multidisciplinary. It really depends on what you are seeking funding for and the components of your project. Applications will be competitively scored by the panel following the established review process. You must score a minimum of 75 for consideration. Scores will be based upon the following criteria. Experience, up to 35 points, which is submitted artist portfolio and artist resume that will be evaluated. Merit of proposed project, up to 45 points. A description of your project, implementation, public display and performance, and the project's impact to San Antonio as an art city. And lastly, capability, which is up to 20 points. Your project timeline, budget, and marketing plan. Are you actually capable of putting on this project? Staff will determine initial eligibility of the grant applicant through the intent to apply. Eligible applicants will then have their applications scored by an independent panel review process. The designated panels for each category will review all assigned applications. To ensure that panelists are reviewing each application fairly, panelists are required to declare any conflict of interest with applicants for funding. Panelists also remain anonymous. Department of Arts and Culture staff will develop funding recommendations based on eligibility, evaluation of the panel review scores, available funding, and category. Awarded grantees will receive a notification of funding via email. Now we will go over the steps to apply. This consists of two steps, the intent to apply and the application. Step 1 is the intent to apply. All applicants are required to register and create an account on sanantonio.gosmart.org, which is our grants management system through which this grant is administered, prior to accessing the grant application. If you have received funding through us before or already have a profile in GoSmart, we recommend you review and update it as needed prior to beginning your application. The department will review your intent to apply, and when complete, you will receive an email informing you when you may move on to step 2, the application. You will receive all email communications from this email address, noreply@gosmart.org. So please make sure the email on your profile does not block this address. Definitely recommend adding it to your address book so you get all of our notifications. Now we move on to the online application system, GoSmart. Near the bottom right here, you'll see the Help Center. If you have any issues with the system after hours and we are not available, you may click the link to find additional information or solutions on technical problems. If you have never applied for funding through the system, you will need to create a profile. I have the Create New Account button circled at the top right of the screen here. If you already have an account, you'll just click the gray Login button below. And I have the link sanantonio.gosmart.org at the top of this page, It is also on our website. From here, if you are creating a new account, you'll enter in all your information and create your profile. Please note that even if you are applying on behalf of your collective, your profile needs to be for an individual, as circled here in red, and not an organization. If you do by accident click organization, you will not be able to see or apply for the artist grant, as it's only for individuals. I do want to note that all your information should be your legal name as an individual. It should not be an LLC you operate or other business or nonprofit entity. We can only accept individual applications. There is no way to get around that. Once you're in Go Smart, click on the Grant Applications and Forms tab at the top of the page I have circled in red here. You'll scroll down to the Artist Grants FY 2027 section and click the blue button that says Start Intent to Apply. Mine is a yellow Edit button here since I already tested the application, but yours will be blue like the one below it pictured here. This will take you to the Intent to Apply. The questions are formatted in multiple ways. For example, the first question, artist name, is a text box where you will enter your information. Once you move on to the application, large text boxes will show number of characters allowed for each text box. Here you will enter your artist name, a website if you have one, and you'll enter the link for your profile in your San Antonio Artist Registry if you do have one. If you don't have either of those, you can just leave those blank. Here you will verify your eligibility requirements, such as your age, city employment status, and professional artist experience. You will be required to upload a professional artist CV or resume, so please ensure that the number of years you enter for professional artist experience aligns with that resume. For example, I have 12 years here I listed, so my resume is going to reflect the 12 years that I have as a professional artist. Don't be afraid to go as far back as you need to show highlighted works or whatever you would like on your resume. Here you will enter your address, including your city council district. You will be required to upload either your ID, a copy of your lease agreement or utility bill, etc. for proof of address, which has your name on it and address. Please make sure that your proof of address and the address you list in the intent to apply match up. Also, please make sure the entirety of your proof of address is visible and that it is current. A picture of a random piece of mail with just your name and address is not a valid proof of address. This needs to be something such as a government ID, voter ID card, utility bill, lease, etc. We do have a video tutorial on uploading proof of address documents in the intent to apply. You'll see the file upload button circled in red here for your proof of address. And at the bottom right-hand corner, you can always save work. You can save and come back to revisit the intent to apply at any time, but just make sure you're clicking those buttons once you enter information so that it will in fact save. Here you will select your funding tier and answer questions regarding prior disciplinary action and contract completion history. You will then certify that your project can be completed and publicly premiered in San Antonio between October 1st, 2026 and March 31st, 2028. You'll click Save Work or Save and Next. If you are applying for the $15,000 tier, you will be prompted to answer a question that asks if you are applying as a collective. If you are, then you will see some additional questions to fill out about the secondary designee of your collective. So that is the same eligibility requirements, their address and their proof of address. I definitely recommend filling this out together with the person, because if you do accidentally put their wrong city council district, if you're filling it out for them, we'll have to kick it back and it just takes a little bit longer. So I definitely recommend taking some time and applying together in the same room if you are both in the collective. I also want to note that even if your collective has a name as a whole, let's say like San Antonio Dance Collective, you will be entering the name of the individual. So you won't be entering your total collective name or business name. You're just going to enter your individual, yourself, and your secondary. If you are all completed with your application, you'll receive a blue banner here stating that you have met all requirements for the intent to apply. If it is red, that means you have something you need to go back to, and it will show you exactly what you need to revisit before you can submit. When you're ready, you'll click the Save and Submit button I have circled here. Once you click Submit, you will receive a confirmation that you've completed your intent to apply. You will receive a follow-up email informing you whether you may continue to step 2, the application, on the opening date of February 2nd, 2026. If any corrections are needed before that date, we will let you know beforehand. Step 2 is the application, where you will be required to give information on your proposed project. You will scroll down back to the Artist Grants FY27 section in GoSmart and click the blue button that says Start. I have circled in red here. I also want to note the status bar. You'll see in the upper right-hand corner, circled in red, I have Intent to Apply Approved as my status. That is the only way I can access the application. So if you did submit your intent to apply and it hasn't gotten approved, you will not be able to access the application on February 2nd. That means in some way you were ineligible, or you may have not actually submitted your intent to apply. So do keep in mind, you have to have that intent to apply approved status to access the application. And when you are approved, you will receive a notice in GoSmart. So make sure that you're getting those emails. This is the first page of the application, which provides you with the deadline, which is February 20th, 2026 at 5 p.m. Here you will answer questions about your artistic background, including your bio, artist statement, and additional resume upload. You can use the exact same resume you uploaded in your intent to apply, as the previous resume upload was for us as staff to determine your eligibility with professional artist experience, and this resume, which would be the same resume, is being evaluated purely by the panel. Next, you will upload samples of your work with instructions on size limits here. You will note that these files will come from the GoSmart Media Bank. We have included a full tutorial on how to access and use the media bank for your convenience, circled in red here. And you will be able to see your attached media before submitting at the bottom here, circled in red. Next, you will be asked to select your project's artistic category and describe your project in detail. So your name, the description of your project, and how you will create, implement, and publicly display your project. Also want to note, digital content must be presented publicly at a physical space, including an exhibition, performance, or film screening. Next, you'll be asked to elaborate on how your project will bring value to San Antonio. You'll also be asked to provide information on any collaborators and where you plan to display or perform your project, with some examples here. So my collaborator example, John Smith, art handler, I'm describing what John will do, how I know him, his experience, etc. If you anticipate collaborating, but you don't have someone in mind just yet, explain the type of person you're going to need. For example, here, I know that I'm going to need a videographer who specializes in stop motion animation for my project. Maybe I'm planning on reaching out to some people in the community, but I'm not sure yet, and I haven't talked to them about it. That's okay. We're just asking you to provide as much detail as you can to the panelists, but if you don't have everything locked down, that is totally fine. This also goes with venue. You do not have to have a venue already locked down at the time of applying. We understand that these things are tentative and they will shift. We're just asking you to provide as much detail as you can about your project that you aim to bring to fruition. So for example, if I'm a filmmaker and I know I need a venue with a film screening like projector, I will list that in the venue section. I'll provide detail even if I don't know the venue yet. Or I could list my top 3 venues. Let's say my top 3 venues are, 3 local galleries. I can list those out and just say those are my desired venues. I just have to make sure that my plan is realistic to the panelists. So think about it that way. Lastly, you'll elaborate on the logistics of where you will display your project. You will be asked to provide your desired venue, timeline, and plans to market your project. Project budget. Right before this section, you'll get a message that says, "We strongly believe that all artists should be paid for their work." As you fill out the next questions related to your project budget, please capture expenses for your artistic time and that of your artistic collaborators. We have included a tutorial video on how to fill out the budget in its entirety here at the blue link. You'll move on to the next page where you will fill out the proposed budget. This doesn't have to be final, but please fill it out to the best of your ability and give yourself some room if you are unsure of exact costs. You can include a line item for your own income in the income section. So in my expenses section here, here's some examples. Artist fee, I'm going to hire a videographer for $1,000. Production expenses, I'm going to purchase paint supplies for $500. Maybe I'm purchasing stage lighting equipment for $1,000. Marketing, I'm going to purchase an ad buy in a local newspaper for $250. We give you these 3 categories, but there's also several blanks, so you can add in your own categories as you see fit. Just make sure you put the description on the left side and the dollar amount on the right side. Project income section. This is where you'll list any anticipated project income. You are not required to make revenue from your project. So we have some examples here. Projected ticket sales, $500. For sponsors and underwriters, a local radio station sponsorship for $1,000. Let's say I'm a filmmaker and I already have a media company investment of $50,000. I would list that here. I also want to note if you are applying for other grants, maybe you've already secured grant funds or you're anticipating that, you can list them here as well. Just make sure you're putting the description on the left-hand side and the dollar amount on the right-hand side. If I was also receiving grants or if I had a very large budget, I would also make sure to go into detail about that budget, about my overall project, and about how it's affected in my application. So the panelists know, maybe I'm applying for a grant, maybe I've received a grant that's $20,000 and that's why I'm putting it in my project income section. Make sure you provide the panelists with that detail so it informs them of the context of your budget. Next, you can list any anticipated in-kind support. In-kind is defined as a non-cash good or service. So my examples here are canvas donated from a local art supply store for $500, 100 beverages donated from a local brewery for $1,000, or 1 hour of DJ services for an opening reception provided by a local DJ for $350. This is just the cash equivalent of these goods. You do not have to have any type of in-kind if you don't have any plans for that in your project. This is simply the section where you'll fill it out if you have that. Lastly, you will fill out the ethics forms. For your convenience, we've included a tutorial on how to complete both forms here at the blue link. We understand that these can be a little confusing, but they're both forms to declare a conflict of interest if you have one with a local government official or yourself if you work for the city. So we have the CIQ and the CIQ addendum here. Please watch the tutorial. It's only about 2 minutes long and it goes over both scenarios if you do have a conflict of interest or if you don't. I definitely advise people, don't get hung up on these forms, fill them out to the best of your ability, and don't let these forms stop you from submitting your entire application before the deadline. The last section here is the assurances page. You must certify that you are authorized to submit an application, agree to adhere to the city's non-discrimination policy, refrain from discussing your application with any member of the evaluation panel or any member of the San Antonio Arts Commission or Arts Funding Committee until the item is taken to the San Antonio Arts Commission. Additionally, you may not contact any city official or their staff until the item is posted for City Council review. You must certify that you are the creator and owner of the artwork, and no other individual may claim copyright to the artwork, or that you have obtained rights to a component of the work that contains copyrighted material by someone else, and that all information submitted in the application is true and correct. So please check yes if you agree. Last page here is the submission page. If you happen to miss answering any questions, you will receive a message, that red banner, letting you know which questions you need to go back to. You will not be able to proceed with the application until you answer all required questions. You'll click on the final submission button once you get this blue banner that you've met all requirements, and a message will show up asking if you're sure you're ready to submit. When you are, you click OK. Once you click submit, you will receive a notice that your application was received. You will receive a notice from the department on or before June 2nd informing you of your award status, and you're all done. Lastly, let's go over the timeline and then we'll get into Q&A. This graphic illustrates the entire artist grant process. So on January 5th, the intent to apply opened. On January 23rd, the intent to apply closes. On February 2nd at 8 a.m., the application opens. On February 20th at 5 p.m., the application closes. In March and May, applications are reviewed and scored. In May and June, funding recommendations are made. In June and July, it goes for commission and committee approval. And in September, it goes for City Council approval. In October 2026 through March 2028, that is the whole contract period, And as I stated, if you are awarded, initial grantee payments will be made by late November 2026 if all required material is submitted to us. We understand that it is a bit of a wait between when you submit the application and when you're waiting to hear back. If you are awarded, the whole process can take a little bit, but we just ask you to keep in mind this entire timeline as things are happening behind the scenes, and we will notify you of your award status, whether or not you receive the grant or not, in June 2026. If you have any questions at any time, you can always contact us. Here are some QR codes to our online resources. So our guidelines, our request for applications, and GoSmart. All of these resources are available on our website on the Artist Grant page. Lastly, I have our FAQ, a QR code here, but this is also on our Artist Grant page. If you have any questions about these grants at any time, please contact us at artsfunding@sanantonio.gov. It was a pleasure to present this to you today, and good luck on your application.